Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the State of Sino, where we do a monthly podcast talking about the state of Sinoalice as it stands. We've got myself, Demiik, we've got Fort Misery Gaming, we've got Tachibana, and we've got Bork. How you all doing today? You guys is now. Yeah, they're not asking the
good. Omi, how you doing?
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, we're doing good.
I feel honored to be in the presence of Toxic. So
We're saying like that.
Right.
We're saving that one. That's the end of the stream where we talk about that one.
Brilliant. And the first thing we're gonna talk about right now is literally the state of Sinoalice. Sinoalice versus other games of its like, so other gacha games in their first 2 months of inception. I'll hand it over to you, Bork.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that we got to talk about is how does Sino handle within the first 2 months compared to games like Arknights, Epic 7, and 7 Deadly Sins. And one of the things that I have to say is like none of those like 3 games had a broadcast. You know what I mean? Whenever those 3 games first started, there was a whole bunch of controversy of like, you know, what is supposed to be releasing. They're not releasing stuff in order, which Sino does have. But I don't think they have such a well-adaptive like customer service that the way Sino has. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think it was a year before Epic 7 even like acknowledged the community from like a global perspective of like actually holding, I think it was their conference they had in Korea where they actually got to hear out the problems with the game. So It was like a full year before they even like really heard out the player base. All they did before then was just like answer Reddit questions and do patch notes. Like I think it was like almost like 6 months or a year before they had developer notes. Yeah. So I think that is very strong. That's like side game sort of communication, that they're very transparent with the players. So that aspect is very, very good.
Yeah, and I've heard like a couple of players who've like lost their accounts or, you know, have had issues logging in. And Sino has been very communicative on like recovering credentials and everything. So I want to say like things like that is something that Sino has handled like definitely appropriately throughout, you know, the first 2 months, because most games can't even launch their servers properly. You know, people can't even download the game. I think we had that issue with some other games where you couldn't even like play the game because, you know, the servers had so many issues. And I believe like JP had that issue as well in Sino, where you couldn't even play the game, right?
They sure did.
That was rough.
Like, so like that's one of like the few things that I feel like Sino's been doing, you know, somewhat correctly. And I hope like we can take like notes from the successes of like other games like Arknights, Epic 7, 7 Deadly Sins, and the way they handle like sort of obviously they're not the greatest with like, except for Arknights with customer service, but I would say they get better over time where Sino's doing it right off the bat. But I think, you know, there is some things where it's, you know, you want more gameplay. Like one of like the biggest things is I think 7 Deadly Sins has like some of the best gameplay right now, which is why I think it's one of like, you know, the games that kind of just survive in the current meta.
I think
I can agree to that.
Yeah, I think although Sinoalice is not without its bugs, but then again, what game has come out and just been perfect? I think what Sinoalice devs are doing are like they are listening, and they're at least trying to resolve their issues.
Yeah, I would say the game that's come out the strongest as of late, the only thing that really comes to mind is like something like Exo's Heroes and like Arknights. Like those, and I know Exo's Heroes has its issues with like microtransactions and everything, but I don't really hear like buggy things, right?
I believe on launch there was a fair bit of bugs, mostly to do with server issues. But other than
Exos
that,
was dead for the first like 3 hours. They had a
I don't think I remember anything other than that. And obviously the lag issues, which still extend up till today, I'm pretty sure. Other than that.
And I think one of the
Sino or with
things,
Exos Heroes?
Exos.
So
Okay.
Yeah, and one of the things that games usually struggle, which I see like a thing, especially for gacha players, is rerolling. Like when Epic 7 first released, it didn't have the reroll function that it currently has, where you can unlimited reroll. So I think it's one of those modern things. As a someone who actually plays a gacha, you want to spend like 5 minutes or whatever doing the tutorial, and then you have an infinite reroll process where Sinnoh had that like right off the bat.
Wait.
Well, they had it in
You're telling me that
It had
Epic's
30 in global.
Huh?
In Epic 7, when it launched, they had 30 pools.
Yeah.
Is it now infinite?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's infinite, or it's. I think it got
insane.
even better.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like the rerolls weren't too bad. You get a chance to go through a bunch and then pick one when you do it. But like it's got infinite now? What?
It was sort of like that. The problem that I think that it could have probably been better was if you could actually save rolls. Instead, it was basically if you don't pick it right then and there, you're not gonna be able to pick it later.
Yeah.
That was the only like quote unquote problem with Epic 7, but that still leagues better than most games handle rerolling.
Yeah, by the sounds of it, something like Genshin Impact has got like a really kind of not grueling process, but like kind of what you're used to. Like you have to go through a tutorial.
Sign up for a brand new account.
Yeah, I was going to say the Genshin issue isn't necessarily the rerolling; it's the user interaction by the company who is looking at rerolling as if it's stealing.
You take what you can
like
get. That's it.
Yeah, like me and Tachi were talking about this, and like the regular rerolling Genshin is what like people were doing it in like 18 to 20.
Yeah, that's the people who have a lot of experience doing it, and they basically like just ground down the time. I think the typical player would probably spend 30 minutes plus a reroll.
Holy.
You need to sign up for a brand new account with a brand new email every single time you do it, which is also a problem in itself.
Yeah,
the idea that they're discouraging the act of rerolling because they're like, hey, if you have too many rerolls or too many 5 stars on your account, we're just gonna ban the account because we think you're selling the account. And you're like, pre-day one, they are already kind of hamstringing themselves.
Well, that's very similar to like War of the Visions changed their JP to global reroll system. Remember, they completely took away the ability to reroll, and you had to completely do a whole new email or Facebook every time as well.
Yeah, you had to reattach everything. It sucked.
I think you have to consider as well, like how quickly you're able to get an ideal roll from your rerolls. So, for example, like maybe Genshin Impact. Well, if you can get it, say, within 10 rolls, sure, that's 10 accounts, but like you'll be done when you're done. Whereas Sinoalice, to get maybe like a perfect roll, because you got the option just to re-roll so many times. Like I was doing mine for 2 days before I got something I could stick with. 2 days of re-rolling, so it was a nice, easy process. But like to get what you wanted,
I got mine in 3 hours.
Do you want me to tell you about my War of the Visions experience?
No.
As long as it's within the first 2 months.
You tried it for 2 days and then you ended up buying.
I re-rolled over 77 accounts.
Oh.
And then you bought one.
And then I
no,
you
didn't.
I found one.
I found an account on the ground.
It fell off the truck.
So
But no,
let's
I
cover
re-rolled.
like, some other things about other games. Like, how do we think that Sinnoh compares to other gacha rates? Because I would say like Sinnoh has pretty similar gacha rates. I think Seven Deadly Sins has pretty much one of the worst gacha rates. Is from the vibe I've been receiving.
I've
from
got
the
a bit
community.
of it.
I'd say it's pretty normal-ish, right, guys?
Yeah,
3% is standard.
I think my first gacha that I really got into was Bleach Brave Souls. And I was quite spoiled, I felt, with the double rate banners and stuff like that. It was quite high chances. And then I saw that realistically, a lot of gachas can be like 1%, or mostly are 1% for that top poll. So
yeah,
I think Sinoalice is fairly reasonable for standard gacha rates anyway.
Can I dive deep into this?
Yeah, go.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to break it down for people that have not played a lot of gachas. So the one thing Sinnoh has a very big advantage over a lot of games is that you only, for one, pull for weapons, which in other gacha games it would be heroes, right? But if you look at even Dragalia Lost now, you look at War of the Visions, You look at the Epic 7, you have to pull for units and prints, or units and dragons, or units and weapons, things like that. That is a big factor when you're calculating your percentages and getting that specific featured unit. And now going into 7 Deadly Sins, I don't know too much about it, but I know there's now a Super Awakening system where you need like 7 dupes or something crazy like that, and Exos Heroes, you need to pull Legendary Fate Cores, so it's like all this mountainous of dupes you need to really unlock a full potential, where in like Sinoalice, the dupes are going to help you a lot, but it's not like if you don't get a dupe of that weapon, it's unplayable. And I feel that's like Sinnoh's big strong point is like, plus us getting like at least 1 or 2 step-up banners every month is like very obtainable for free-to-play to get that specific unit for that month.
I
think we need to highlight step-up banners really quick, just because technically there's not very many games where you can pull 4 or 5 times what have you, right? Technically it's 4, where you're guaranteed an SR, because usually it's like, you have to pity for an SR or a high rarity character, high rarity weapon, what have you. Usually it's like guaranteed S, and then you get something after 10 rolls, right?
Yeah. Not to mention, the amount of steps with Sinnoh, it's 5 steps, but other gachas I've played go up to like 8 steps and such like that.
Yeah.
I have seen a handful of games that are pretty much they only release banners on step-ups.
Yeah. I've seen that as well.
Like Blazing was like a big step-up gacha for a while.
I would say that Sinnoh has about average, if not slightly above average rates in terms of most games. There are some games like FGO and whatnot that have ridiculously low rates.
We don't talk about that.
And I would agree we don't have to deal with the whole splitting thing. Although at the same time, I suppose you can consider Nightmares to be sort of like a split.
Yeah. I would agree with you there. Let's jump onto one more thing.
Are so low, I don't think, unless they're on banner, of course, I don't think we really have to deal with Nightmares too often.
Yeah, let's jump on to one more thing. Where do you guys think, the crystal to money ratio? And we're not going to talk about, unfortunately, like overseas currency, because we all know that's very, borked, or it's just not good. Let's talk about like normal currency. How do we think it handles between like Arc Knight's currency, transaction between dollars, 7 Deadly Sins? Because I would say Sinnoh's pretty average in that sense, because it's like, hey, for $1, technically you get like X amount of gems, which I think for a full multi, like 3 to 4, multis, 10 pulls, right? Usually it's around $80, which Sinnoh is doing. Do you guys usually see something like higher, lower? What do you guys think?
I think it's fine. I think they might be $1 or so too expensive, per average. But my issue with Sinnoh's platform isn't necessarily the price. I think sales would murder. They would make so much money if they didn't have these flash 3-day sales on a Monday, where you're like, oh hey, you get a multi for $20. That's gonna be wild, right? And you're like, I didn't get paid yet, guys.
No, that's very
they
true.
Just extend their sales longer. I will say that.
Or have them slightly more often. We've only had 3 rounds of sales so far.
We get them once a month.
Yeah, the sales are insane. But the thing is,
so just for comparison, so when War of the Visions, for instance, has their sales, they do an $80. What is it? I think you get 5 multis for $80, and Sinoalice you get 7 multis for $80 on their big sales. So that's so you guys compare apples to apples.
Those double up gems are insane value. But speaking from a spending perspective, when I want to spend and there's no offers on, it's kind of it's very painful for someone. I'm not a high spender. I'm not a whale spender. So $80 is kind of you get 3 multis for it, and I'm not getting a lot bang for the buck there. But when those double packs come in, brilliant. All these offers come in, you get new stuff. That's you get when you get your gems, and then you get an item as well, like characters or weapons or stuff like that.
Yeah,
but that's why average. Yeah.
generally when you probably pay for something in Sinnoh, I highly recommend like getting a paid pack with a Nightmare. Royal User Service, obviously we know that's like a big one. There are games like where in Seven Deadly Sins, because I played that game, I wailed quite a bit on it, just a bit, and every single week they refresh the pack double. So every single week it would be like double gems every single week. They just refresh it all the time because they know that there's going to be a fire banner that people will want to pull every single week. So I got to applaud Sinnoh for pacing things appropriately, not releasing, because we talked about this earlier, where when they drop a weapon, right, it doesn't break the game. You got to work for it in Sinnoh. It's like a slow creep to things where it's like, once you upgrade it, that's it. But you still have to work more towards making your grid better. It's not just like, I pull this fire weapon and it's just like, boom, like you're hot. It's not how it works in Sinnoh.
I want to...
Yeah, I will say back on the currency exchange real fast, is that we want to compare Bandai, even regular price, Sinnoh is still better than Bandai prices. Because Bandai prices is $80 for 2 multis in Quick.
Ouch.
Yeah. I think like brand games tend to push the ball out a little bit because people want their character a little bit more because they've watched them in their whatever show they're on or whatever.
Right. You want your Ultra Instinct Goku.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I want to move away from Sinnoh's first 2 months and move on to more of what we do every single day, and that's our colosseums, and that's basically our matchmaking so far.
Mind if we talk real quick about quality of life, or are we?
Yeah, we can talk about the quality of life. Someone has brought that up.
Someone in chat was talking about it too.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take the lead on this if you guys don't mind. So how do we feel that there's really 1, maybe 2 game modes, if you count Conquest mode, outside of Guild Wars, compared to other games we've seen this year, such as Seven Deadly Sins, War of the Visions, and now Exos Heroes, who has several types of game modes, where you can earn rewards, have challenging content, things like that. I think the big thing is we don't have auto repeat, and we have a very lack amount of skip tickets.
I think Sinnoh is catering towards its niche, which is the draw point, which is the guild battles, the guild versus guild, 15 versus 15 live battles, in which pretty much what you're building your character up for. It's very guild orientated, the entire game. So their game modes are more, we've got the normal Colosseum, and then we got Grand Colosseum, and we got Blood Colosseum coming up now. And in the future, we've got the Colosseum of Sin, and there's even spec Colosseums coming up in the future, which JP has, which are basically kind of fun Colosseums. So they're really kind of putting all their eggs in that Colosseum basket right now.
I would say they're really favoring, like, including, like, the full amount of people. Like, because you talked about, like, the very fun different colors. There's actually an orb demon that exists in JP for a fun event, because everyone loves orbs. And there's also the 20-man like huge raids where it's like 20 people versus like a giant boss or whatever. So I think they're really banking on the fact of, like, what you guys are iterating, co-op is a huge deal in Sinnoh, and they want to make that. We're talking about that thing that we talked about earlier, where it's like Sinnoh wants to be an MMO game, but a lot of people are like, this is a phone game. Like, this is a phone game, so I don't expect it to be like that.
On that topic, I think that might just have to be due to how the West perceives phone games, because this was never really much of an issue in JP. And on the topic of things like auto repeat, I will say ahead of time, we will actually be receiving that eventually. JP does have auto repeat, so it's only a matter of time for us to be receiving those quality of lives. But the problem with receiving quality of lives early is just it comes down to the way the game was coded. And a lot of these quality of life updates are impossible to bring into the current version of the game without outright recoding the game, which is prohibitively expensive. They are not going to do that.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
There are only certain things we can get. So we will be getting, for example, the infinite inventory soon. I believe they said the next version, so that should be sometime in November. But certain things like the new colo stats, I believe that is tied to some other systems in the game that we do not have. So those things we cannot get early. That's just how that is.
Well, I mean, so the only thing about that is, unfortunately, is like the standard right now in 2020 for mobile games is to have either a surplus amount of skip tickets to complete your stamina drains or to have auto repeat. So that's the only thing I feel is like, I think that's a big thing in the game. And I know a lot of our guildmates specifically don't regularly play in farm events because they don't want to have to hit a button every 30 to 90 seconds.
Right.
I feel that does drown the game down a lot and when gathering resources for your resource grinds.
Yeah. Speaking of quality of life,
I've seen a slightly different version of that. Instead of having skip tickets, they just allow you to outright skip for free. What do you guys feel about something like that? Would that be too much for a game like Sino?
No. Yeah, well, my concern is that I've got more royal skip tickets than I do have normal skip tickets. Plus,
Exactly.
there's no other way to get the normal skip tickets. I think, like, if you had one skip ticket that cost, like, I don't know, 200,000 gold or something like that, which makes sense because 200,000 is the most you can get from the riches, secret to riches with a drop potion. So it's so that you don't permanently farm these skip tickets, making one skip ticket cost 200,000 gold. I think that sounds.
I mean, I think they should even maybe do a skip ticking farming event, or like you get like maybe player EXP, or maybe random nightmare drop, like nightmare fodder drops, or random equipment drops, something like that. But you can also get skip tickets, like guaranteed, like skip ticket drops for costing however much stamina. Like that's what Black Clover did, where they had specific dungeons where you could farm skip tickets and save up your skip tickets for the events. So
it would be nice for free to plays for sure.
I know my boy said mid Clover, but we got to calm down.
I just think something needs to be implemented because, I mean, I don't know how everyone else's guild, but like if you have a busy schedule and you can't like sit down and farm like manually on your phone, like that was the one thing that deteriorated me from Epic 7 in year one, was that you had to consistently, even though you had auto function, you had to consistently keep on entering the dungeon over and over again for no reason. Like, why can't I just loop it? Like, there isn't really a reason why you can defend that, in my opinion. But
a quality of life thing that I'd want to input in the game is a material synthesizer. So you can take your tier 1 mats, yeah? I don't care how many, but you can make them into tier 2 and then tier 2 to tier 3, because I don't know what I'm going to do with 1,000 bird feathers.
Oh, that's true.
Right.
That should have been in the game a long time ago.
Yeah.
To be fair, I would like to remind you
Lost has it, War of the Visions has it.
As we get further into the game and we no longer have all these things that we need to upgrade, which will eventually happen. Obviously, if you spend, it will happen faster. Once you have your entire setup already done, you're just going to be collecting every type of material anyways. So I'm not sure how necessary it will be in the long run, other than for people who start late. So I guess in that aspect, perhaps we should have the quality of life, but I don't think it will be nearly as useful as you think.
But not for us.
Well, the onboarding for new players at this point is really bad, just because
it's not great at all.
No.
And the only way you breathe life into a game is new players.
Yeah.
So like right now, we aren't picking up players by the thousands or tens of thousands. We might be trickling players by the hundreds. So like the biggest issue is, how do you get a new player to 150k? Like, how do you do
that is actually a problem that is sort of fixed somewhat by the game living for longer. As you can maybe see if you were to start playing in JP, as the game progresses, it actually becomes easier and easier to reach higher and higher CPs on your first day or 2 days or 3 days. For example, on the first day of launch, it was probably really hard to get to 100k unless you spent a lot of money. But eventually, it will become significantly easier to hit 100k on your first day and whatnot. So as the game increases in age and there are more weapons and whatnot, it will become easier. On top of that, if I'm not mistaken, the beginner banner, the one that we reroll on, also becomes significantly better. I don't know when it gets added, but a lot of the weapons pretty much just like get added into it. Yeah. I think they might even add like a guarantee, because I'm pretty sure in JP it feels a lot like they have way higher rates on that banner than what I felt like when I was re-rolling on day one. And
yeah,
I'm re-rolling both of them, and it's very different.
So on a different thing, so for JP, we talked about this earlier, right? They have like that tutorial mode where pretty much you get a 5-star guaranteed if you complete a certain quest with a specific weapon. For example, a staff or a hammer, what have you. You'll get 1 like SR weapon, and then you'll get 4 limit breaks for that weapon. And then in JP, they also have like a pack where it's a Vanguard pack where you get 5 SR nightmares that are all Vanguard related. You know, like one for like the Emil head, like gotcha version, and then you'll get 5 like SR hammers that will also go with that pack, and it's only like 300. So they already know like how you pretty much balance the game. I think they need to maybe cater somewhat or explain that those things exist in the game. Like, hey, you know, this is a beginner pack that you are supposed to buy, so you don't feel like complete garbage in Sinnoh. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that, like they added in JP. I really appreciate that, because it's like in JP, like, you know, the minimum score is like 300 plus K, and then, you know, how do you even like get there, right?
Yeah, there's something that you're gonna have to implement in a game like this, because there is an unavoidable eventual power creep, and you've got to be able to catch players up eventually. But
yes, I will say that is not it's not really a thing in even in JP really. It's very difficult to catch up, especially with limited banners, because you'll never get those until they eventually roll back out. So someone who had been playing the entire time, you're just immediately not going to have all of those limited weapons and whatnot. Those are things that I think should be addressed, but I have currently not been.
For sure. I mean, I think it's this definitely one of those games like you can't just hop into and get to the top in a month, like regardless if you have money.
And then let's talk about colo really quick. One of the quality of life features that's been largely addressed by a majority of people is some sort of benching system where you have like 3 extra members, 5 extra members that you can switch people in due to colo fatigue.
Yeah.
Or maybe some sort of motivation to be like, hey, you know, this player got stronger, you're getting benched now. Sort of like, you know, basketball and all those other sports, right?
Definitely would be helpful for especially more competitive guilds, because the community that you build within a guild is a great thing, and to be afraid that you're going to get dropped because you're not strong enough it's a really tricky thing to, you know, build with the synergy of a guild. So being able to have that kind of breather that you can catch up, because it might just be not going your way at that time, or, you know, someone else can come in while you're a bit fatigued or something like that, like you said.
I would like to hit on what Brian Dong just said. I agree as well. I don't think there's much incentive, even if they were to have a bench system, because like we've hit on earlier, this game is primarily about colo. Why would you want to be a bench player in a game that's primarily about PvP?
I think it's mainly because of the fact that, you know, some people don't want to play colo every single day. Sort of like a rest system. I think that's like one of the biggest issues with Sinnoh, is that people don't like being locked into a schedule, which I know Sinnoh you kind of signed up for. Essentially, when you're playing a phone game, you don't want to be locked into a schedule. You want to have the freedom of being able to play whenever, however you want. And that's why you play, you know, a phone game. So if I wanted to play a game where I'm locked into a schedule, I, you know, play on like a PC or, you know, something like that, right? And that's where sort of my mindset is, cater to the mobile community. But, you know, that's just my take on it personally.
Yeah. I definitely think that might not necessarily be the type of game that Sinnoh envisioned itself as. I personally feel that Sinnoh is trying to be almost like an integral part of your life, which is kind of weird. I do feel that it is definitely that type of game that is designed for you to be on several like specific times, and it locks you down into those times. It definitely feels like that type of game, instead of a game where you would just get up whenever you want. At least that is how it is at the moment. I'm not sure if they could change that. I would like it, but that is not how it is now.
My thoughts on what the benching system could be potentially used for, if something like that were to be implemented, is again, like catch-up banners would be to help players who aren't there. A benching system could be like where you could be a player that focuses on a specific type of build, and because to be in top competitive levels, you really got to be kind of more flexible and be able to run different builds and invest in so many more different weapons. But if you're a low spender, you might not be able to do that. But if you could easily hard focus on one type of build that works against certain other guilds, but you might not always need that at that time, but you could still be part of that kind of competitive guild scene.
That makes sense.
That does make sense.
Have we covered the matchmaking yet?
No. We should talk about the matchmaking and why it's so bad.
All right, so Tachi and I covered this a couple of days ago when we were talking, and the general sentiment in matchmaking in every game is, I don't know why they can't get it right. They should get it right. This is a really simple thing. I could make it better. And I'm going to be blunt. You're full of shit. Matchmaking requires so much data to actually even get people within points of each other. Like, Riot has fucked up matchmaking for a decade. Blizzard has been doing it with WoW, with Overwatch, with Hearthstone. Like, online card games have done this forever.
It's much worse than that.
Yeah,
even
like
chess has terrible matchmaking. Chess. The one who invented the ELO system has terrible matchmaking. It's not a simple problem to fix, and no one really knows to quantify skill, because skill is not really something you can quantify.
It's fluid.
And of course, it's fluid. It changes by the second, by the minute, and everyone has different types of skill. Now, obviously, in games like Sino, it is more stats based, but at the same time, it's not just stats. For example, my guild is actually pretty good in terms of stats, around the top 50 in terms of level. But we are, no offense, guys, we're pretty bad. We perform terrible. So what do you think has more weight? Our skill in the game, our lack of communication, or our stats? How should they decide those two factors into the game, our performance and our actual skills and our stats of the game with matchmaking? It's not something that can be solved.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that they should consider raw stats, because if they're going to take in that data, I doubt they're taking in like the skill levels of your weapons, because it's just a lot of that to process. I think you should be using several algorithms, basically win-loss ratio, life force farmed, and I guess hopefully like how you performed against certain guilds in the past. So if you beat a really highly ranked guild, you would get it would bode well, you'd be put in higher matchmaking. If you do well against a bad guild, it won't really give you that much more, and vice versa. So if you lose against a not very good guild, you'll get shunted down quite a bit. But if you lose against a really good guild, then you would get you wouldn't go down as much.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense, because I think one of the biggest things when you're fighting someone in colo is the first initial thing is everyone hides, right? And then the first 30 minutes or whatever the match is about to start, everyone unlocks their full potential. Everyone's suddenly at like 180k, 200k, or some crazy nonsense like that. And you're like, oh man, I have no chance of winning. But honestly, I think one of the biggest things where when your vanguard is very close to each other point wise, there's a 10 to 20,000 difference. Obviously, if there's a 50,000 gap, it's even crazier to overcome. But it turns into a rear guard fight where it's essentially like, hey, who has their skills leveled, and it turns into like, do we account for that as for matchmaking, right?
Well,
and I think they should, but I don't think they currently do, right?
So,
I don't
and
think
the
they take
thing that I
stats into account at all.
No, I don't
Yeah.
think it takes stats into account at all. And I think Tachi and I, I'm glad that all of you said that because we've already sort of went over this part. Like, you can expand data points in matchmaking and hope for the best. It's not a perfect system, and like, so let's say everybody has a matchmaking rating. So if you win a match, you get X. If you lose a match, you lose Y. That's how Dota works. That's how League of Legends works. That's how the card games do their invisible MMRs. Like, there are numbers associated with win-loss. They do that mathematically, and matchmaking in these games is still awkward. And they have a system that they've been working on for a significantly larger amount of time.
Yeah, if it was working in JP, then they could surely they'd be able to put that similar. The coding can't be that messed up that they can't.
Yeah, no, that would work, but it's not fixed in JP, and that's the problem. It's still. I don't know if it's a lack of data points, like we've said. Like, obviously, they're not taking into account skills at all, or your actual stats. That's just not something that's being taken into account at all.
Yeah,
I don't know if adding that would make it more even, I guess.
I think the main reason why there's some mismatchmaking is because 3 of the factors that can consider a win-loss aren't considered in the matchmaking, and those factors are...
Do you have Ogre?
Well, your Nightmare rotation is one of them, yeah? Your weapon skills and your shinma discipline. And those three things drastically change the outcome, and strategy plays a huge part into competitive Sinoalice. And because you can't take those into account, because strategy, nightmare rotation, and shimmer discipline is all fluid. It's not a static thing that can be measured. So you can't. Yeah. So it's almost, that's probably why you can't perfect the matchmaking, and you're just gonna we just have to kind of deal with currently matchmaking as it stands. The worst matchmaking, obviously, was the initial Grand Colo, but as I've heard, that's going to get better over time.
Well, that's how data works. You have to have data points. You have to have historical lines of linear, logical data. That's the thing that's crazy. Like, was the matchmaking better in Grand Colo 2? Well, the whales fought whales, and sometimes not whales, but everybody else was at least moderately closer in skill. Like, the tier 3...
Unless you were Zengang, where we...
Yeah, unless you were us.
Where we fought people, there were 75,000 K over us, so that's cool.
Yeah, unless we were a top 100 guild who was steadily in the top 25 of competition.
On that topic, I actually do think there might be a slight problem with how GC is formed, and that is going to come down to the actual limitation of how GC is matchmaked. And it comes down to the fact that you cannot have duplicate matches. Problem with that is that high-level guilds that are not the absolute top. So let's say you are the 4th or 5th strongest guild in a time slot. The problem with that is that if you happen to fight the other top guilds early, you're going to get shafted into fighting incredibly weak people for the rest of your matches. And I don't know if that's necessarily something that's fair. I don't know if
you'd actually be winning out that aspect for Grand Colo specifically, because then you're going to be able to farm millions of life force throughout the rest of the event because you're going to be down paired.
Exactly. Well, that is also somewhat of a strategy, is to lose your first match if it happens to be against someone that's strong. Just lose it outright, get as little points as possible so that all your next matches will be easy. And I don't know if that's something that we really want to have in the game, but not really.
Well, that's the thing.
Not something we can control.
We weren't aware initially that Grand Colo wasn't going to match the same way it did in the first one. So the day before Grand Colosseum, there were a lot of guilds out there that were tanking their own points so that they would get paired lower in their first round of Grand Colosseum.
Oh yeah, it was a race to the bottom for some.
And then it was just everywhere. It was like, oh, whoops.
Well, and here's the thing that this is gonna... Oh, man, I am ready for this one. Tachi, you ready for this one?
Ready.
So we had the issue at the beginning where they were like, hey, Asia servers, you don't have enough people in your time slot. We're bumping you down a tier. And people got pissed. Were they right to get pissed? Yeah, kind of. A lot of these time slots only have a handful, at best, competitive guilds. Some of them had 10 to 15 guilds in the entire time slot. Some of these things were unplayed. So you have certain guilds, and I don't have any names to provide you, and I wouldn't if I did, but you do have certain guilds that were in very, very unpopulated time slots and said, well, we were the top guild in our time slot. Well, you're not really working as hard as potentially literally anyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, see, the problem with having all three tiers is the same thing that we just said, is that because of the limitations of GC, you cannot actually have a dead time slot for tier 1. If there's only 5 guilds that qualified for tier 1, you cannot do Grand Colo. So they have to do something, otherwise you would just straight up, you won't be able to play at all, which is another problem.
Yeah.
Well, this is an issue that like me and Zant talked about kind of at length pre-launch. So like 8 time slots is a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Like eventually the squish has to happen. So like don't be comfortable where you're at. Unless there is a sudden injection of 10,000 players, 100,000 players, 200,000 players. Like some of these time slots are going to starve and die. There's nothing you can do to stop that. Unless like, I don't know, you start making alt guilds and slamming them into weird time slots, and that's not even enough.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything they can do.
Yeah, my view on the squish time slot in Asia, I was like, because Grand Colo is quite a serious affair for Sinoalice at least, and so if you're going to actively go into Grand Colosseum, you know should be kind of willing to make some sacrifice, I'd say. I know it's a tough thing to say with people who have lives and jobs and already work around Sinoalice, but if you're playing in a competition, then you know something like that may happen. You might have to deal with it, else it's not a competition. And in terms of the squish, I thought, what if everyone just moved forward half an hour and back half an hour, and then you know? But then I realized there's like an hour or more between certain time slots. So
yeah, some of them are 2 hours in between.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about time slots now, I was curious, how do you guys feel that the game is going to interact with daylight saving time? Because I don't know if you guys are aware, Japan doesn't have daylight saving time. It was never something they had to design into the game.
I guess we're going to find out in next month, right?
Yeah, it's November, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought it was last week of October, but maybe it's changed this year.
All I know is that sometimes I wake up and the sun's not out when it's supposed to be.
And sometimes it's out way too fucking long.
Yeah, or it's light in the middle of the night, and I am very confused.
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, typically what they'll do for daylight savings, I mean, for other gacha games I played, like say my login for my data reset was like 10 a.m. and then daylight savings, it goes to 11 a.m. So sometimes that's just how they do it. So I would assume that the time slots would then change as well.
Oh, they definitely did not in JP. So that would have to be something they have to add directly for the global server.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to test it out and see what happens. I mean, I don't think there's any way of knowing for sure how it's going to affect us at this point in time because we haven't experienced a daylight saving shift yet.
I would like them to address it ahead of time, just in case it's not something that they auto-program into the game. Like, for example, if I'm currently the 7 p.m. time slot, once we hit DST, it'll just shift me back up to whatever was 7 p.m., or it'll keep me to the technical 7 p.m. now. Something needs to actually change.
So I guess it's weird that they use the UTC system both. Okay, so this is literally just a US problem, right? Like daylight savings time isn't really a thing in a lot of places.
Well, I've got daylight savings time.
A lot of South America and some of Europe and Asia.
Yeah, I've got British summertime at the moment, and that'll end soon.
British summertime.
Oh yeah, BST baby. No, I just
think there was summer in England. I thought it was just always fucking cold.
There's 2 seasons, yeah. There's wet season, and it's not as wet as wet season. Those are the 2 seasons.
I want wet season. Is that a Nicki
Yeah.
Minaj song?
in Florida,
Yeah.
or either like super humid or kind of not humid.
That's a wet ass
It's
season.
humid. It's always humid down here. I don't
Oh,
think
I
I've
know.
ever had a not human day.
Yeah.
Florida is this very special place you live where you own sticks of deodorant that aren't for your arms.
This is true.
What? Like what? Body
Yeah,
deodorant.
pick one.
Oh, exactly where that goes. You know
Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm not going on to it on stream, but it's exactly what it sounds like. You know what I'm talking about.
And we got to wear face masks, so it's even more fun now.
Oh god.
So, what's one of the biggest things that drew us to Sinoalice? Like, what's one of the things that got us to really play? Because I think to be honest, I started Sinoalice all because of Tectone. You know,
Same. he kind of advertised it to me in his stream because I was watching Tectone from Arknights, which I decided I want to play myself. Then I found Arknights, and then Tectone was like, "Yo, this game, Sinoalice."
I got into it because I play pretty much anything Yoko Taro puts out. Like I've played all of the Drakengard's, both Niers, like pretty much everything. So like I saw it somewhere on an upcoming gacha thing where they were like, "Hey yo, Yoko Taro's got a gacha game." I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna get my body all up in that shit."
that makes sense.
Yeah, I was originally playing in JP, but I had to quit because those server issues were next level. But once I heard that it was going to come out to global, this was actually last year, if I'm not mistaken, when Nexon was going to run the game. I came back to the community to see if I was going to be able to play then, and I was highly disappointed. And then it came out, surprise, surprise, this year. So I wanted to play it solely for the Colosseum aspect to it. I just thought it was a really interesting idea of the game.
Also, I do wanna. We opened up probably one of the 2 worst can of worms here, because the Twitch chat is Tectone's guild still in, and Demiik is over here having an aneurysm. So for those of you that don't know,
Okay, right, yeah. So basically, Tectone was in Egg, which was one of the top guilds at the time. Within a month, Tectone had quit, but everyone still calls it Tectone's guild or Egg, and it's no longer that, nor was it his guild to begin with. He was in the guild, and I'm in that guild. And we're forever rebranding. And then someone said, "Does Tectone still play?" And I said in chat, "No, he doesn't, but his guild still does." And I just set back months of rebranding.
I know. The first thing was like, "It's not Tectone's guild." I was like, "Oh my god."
Fucking Tectone's mod that said it.
You guys are indecisive now, right?
Yeah, Indecisive is our official name, our Grand Colo name.
Yeah, and so we switch it every other day.
Yeah, pretty much. Right now it's rank 1, by the way, Pepe La.
Didn't you guys have like e-thoughts name for a while?
OnlyFans, and we were all
OnlyFans, that's what it
They
was.
all
Yeah.
named themselves after female Twitch streamers. I remember that.
No,
was
no,
the shit.
mine was Piper Perry, if anybody knows that one.
Oh, no.
I am aware.
Wait, this is PG-13.
A man of culture. Yeah, absolutely, sure. Don't Google that.
Yeah,
Don't
don't Google that.
don't do that. Don't do
Okay.
that. So just to kind of round it out, like I think we all came in to say, and Fort came into Sino because of me.
No,
I was repping that game hard.
no.
No!
I came in for Little Mermaid, bitch. I don't know what you're talking about.
For the waifus.
For the Little Mermaid.
All right, that's fair.
Just her.
We're getting Dorothy this week, so my wife who has finally arrived.
Shake my head. Everyone knows Snow White is the optimal woman. in the game.
I came in because Snow White was like bang tidy, but then I'm really leaning towards Red now. She's like kawaii.
I'm
Calm
disappointed in all of you.
You guys
18
have
over.
to talk about like the serious Aladdin fandom that's like occurring.
No,
right
but
now.
Aladdin
Aladdin is
is real.
major husbando
Fandom is
though.
pretty strong.
It probably comes down to the fact that, well, sure, the underboob part, but also he's technically the only husbando that people know is for sure a husbando, even though there's already one in the game.
Oh, wow. That's what I mean.
You talk about her that way.
No, the problem is, right, yeah, like Pinocchio, yeah, and Little Mermaid to an extent, okay? Y'all are like, yeah, Little Mermaid's my wife, but I'm like, she looks like she's 14 and I cannot deal with this. And Pinocchio is also a child. There are many of these that are just look like children to me.
Well, it's sort of a Japanese thing, and that's we do not have the time to open up that fucking can of worms.
Let's not talk about the live stream incident either.
If you have a problem with that, Demi, you need to go play some Epic 7.
But I think like one of the biggest reasons why you joined Sinnoh is because, you know, like any other gacha game, it has really attractive like art. It has very great waifus as bondos. And like, let's be honest, the story isn't like skyrocketing amazing. I will say the soundtrack is fantastic. If you listen with headphones, you're definitely going to get like in that Yokotaro sense sort of feel. And I really do appreciate like the sense of quality that they put in Sinnoh in that sense, where they know where they shine at. So hopefully they continue with that.
Let me also put in, yeah, if you've got a little bit of time and you want a bit of flavor, all of your weapons have stories. Go and have a read of some of those stories, because some of them are pretty good.
I wish they would just do like some more with actual video animation, like not just have the story be textured, but like actual storytelling.
So
like
we're dealing with storytelling. So if they did it like a pop-up book style, it would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of the Dark Souls series, all the Souls series for that matter, where all their lore is kind of locked down within items.
The items,
and it's not really something that you get by playing the game normally. You're playing it as an action game, and the story comes either outside of the store, like on Google basically, or in the game through items. I feel that this game is very similar to that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I think also it's what got you into Sinoalice's thing, but what keeps you at Sinoalice, because for me, it was the community that, like the community in general of all the players are amongst the Discords, and the community that you create within your own guilds. I've mentioned this before on a stream, and it's that I haven't had this kind of feeling since I was raiding in World of Warcraft, and the camaraderie that you have with your team is top notch.
Yeah, it's really unique in the sense because, like, if you technically don't communicate, for example, in colo, or just basic things like, hey, who's going to main this class? Obviously, things are going to fall apart, right? Like, you don't have that in a gacha where it's like, you're going to be a support and you're going to like it, or I plan to be a support and that's what I choose to play, right?
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I was like, I'm going to be a breaker or a cleric, and now I'm a sorcerer main, so...
I went hard minstrel day one.
I wonder what happens to people that get really unlucky with their choice of weapon, and they don't get those weapons at all.
Sometimes the gacha decides your role for you.
Yeah.
Every time the gacha decides your role.
I
was gonna be a crusher main, and now I have like 17 spears. I don't know what happened.
It just happens, doesn't it?
It just happened. I don't know.
The conch has spoken.
What else?
Now, I like kind of like Demiik and Bork, we were talking about it earlier. There's the name a single other gacha that has live 15 on 15 PvP in the same vein that this is even close to.
Can't do it.
I think there is one, but I don't remember the name.
Like
people talk about Unison League quite frequently.
Yeah, Unison League is probably the only thing that's even close.
Yeah.
I think there's one more then. I believe there's one more that does have a very large PvP, and it's real time, but I don't remember what it's called. And it is a Japanese game.
Well, they're all Japanese.
Does the
what about Korean games?
Right, does the Eve mobile game have a huge multiplayer PvP?
Have you played it?
I've not played it either. I remember the original Eve on the original Eve on the PC, and they have like huge intergalactic space battles, and there's
EVE Online
armies
is
of
wild.
hundreds. I'm like, if there's even a small amount of that, a fraction of that in a mobile game, then it's close enough.
Does that count though? Does it really? It's not a gacha game though.
Oh.
No.
Oh, okay.
I played Eve Echoes for like 2 weeks because we were trying to look at like new games and stuff. And Fort was like, "Oh yeah, you can just go do Eve Echoes," and I play it for. It took me an hour and a half to get to the point where there's a free play point where I'm not just sitting here reading menus and learning things about the game. And I go, I don't think anybody's gonna be cool with it.
Yeah, there's certain games where you would really have to build a community around it because
That's
it
does
not mesh
it's
well.
Not a content game.
It can be a content game, but it has to be people who like that type of thing, which is basically spreadsheets. No offense.
No, EVE Online is spreadsheets that are translated into ships. That's all it is.
Or it has to be dramatized. Fucking Jesus Christ, English. You have to make it into like a story. Like I'm sure you guys have seen all those dramatized videos about like epic battles that like they lost $500 million worth of ships, things like that.
I've seen that.
Do that type of. That's the type of content that meshes really well with Eve because of how the game works.
Wow, I think that pretty much rounds out our podcast today.
We do have a bonus comment. We do have sort of a little EX thing
here.
Yes, we do.
You're horrible.
Fine. Oh, he did it! He did it! I'm so proud.
He is bad, man. He is so bad.
All right, I will defend Tachi. I will fist fight people for Tachi. Tachi is my boy.
It was Spooticus's idea, by the way. It was all his idea.
It 100% was.
I have a half-life of 1 week, so I'm not deadly after a couple months. That's all I'm going to say.
So, Tachi, how does it feel to be called out toxic in the developer's video? You have to tell the community your reaction.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I thought it was mostly just a joke. I don't think they were joking. I don't think they were joking. I think they were serious because I'm sure some people did not like the fact that I called out certain things of the game, which, by the way, were opinions. But I just found it funny because, honestly, I think that actually tied right into what I was saying was the thing anyways. So it almost sort of kind of proved my point.
Yeah, I think what this podcasting shows that you really do have positive things to say about the game as well. It's not like you were just making opinions on things that were just there. They're just, it's not like you're trying to pick apart things that are fine. You're just
very passionate, and I don't write scripts. So
passion.
I write scripts.
Sometimes when certain things upset me, I end up making a video. And sometimes they come off a little bit more negative than I intended, possibly because I curse a lot. But I swear that's just because I suck and I can't emulate emotion outside of cursing. That is the easiest way I can do it. So I just go with that. And it definitely puts off some people, and it sounds more negative than I think it should be perceived, or at least I'm not trying to be overly negative about certain things.
Well, there's a perception of negativity. You aren't necessarily negative. You are just criticizing something in a valid light. It's criticism, and some people do not accept that.
Yeah.
Like, we cannot attack the Pocolabo statue of God, and that's not, I'm not saying they did anything wrong, but even if it's perceived as wrong, you should at least have the conversation about it. That was the big point of me and Tachi's talk the other day. Like, don't just go.
I mean, I think me and Spoot have been more constructive criticism based towards their decisions than any of you guys have. Like, as far as like identifying problems.
Tachi's one video was pretty good on like breaking down why it doesn't work, and then people just set him on fire.
Well, that one specifically, I think it was because I did not take kindly to a certain comment, and that happens a lot. I'm perfectly fine with people coming out and disagreeing with me if they're respectful. But when someone targets me with somewhat like sarcasm and sarcastic comments, or even worse, if they outright say that I'm doing something that I'm not, I don't take kindly to it, and I usually take it as an insult, and I will get uppity about it.
That's fine. As long as you don't insult our my Lord and Savior, Pokolabo Cat, else we'll be fighting.
True.
Cat is bae.
If they do something to my spear banners, I cannot say that will stay the same.
Alright, well, that makes a wrap for the first episode of State of Sinnoh. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you guys for being here. It's been really good.
I mean,
Hell yeah.
I will look forward to the next one. If we will have a next one, that would be nice.
Hell yeah, I definitely want to do the next
I'm
one.
waiting for the literal PhD level dissertation to pop up on Reddit about how we're all fucking wrong.
Yeah. Oh my god, I want that.
Yeah.
How we're all toxic.
Oh
to the
please,
community.
yes! I would love to have
We should all have our YouTube accounts.
that kind of exposure.
we need to be banned off the platform. It's going to be
we're getting deplatformed next.
Oh my god.
Well, to be fair, Demiik did say his favorite was Red Riding Hood. That alone.
That's true.
Oh.
Like, there aren't many waifus in this game that I'd look at and go, "You just chose wrong," but that's probably.
Oh, how dare you! To be fair,
I like Red Riding
I did
Hood.
say Snow as well, though.
I like the design of Red Riding Hood.
Forgive you. You said Snow, but Red Riding, I don't know. Have you seen the manga?
She's bloodthirsty.
Okay.
Yo, you read it finally?
You don't talk about the manga.
Dude, the manga is wild.
Don't talk
You
about
have to
that
talk
manga.
about it.
I'm toxic.
You need to read the manga before we get the real life story. That's all.
I think we should really cut it there. We should not talk about the manga.
Absolutely. Well, I think we could have carried on for hours about certain topics, so we will save it for the next time.
Well, and if there's something that we get a big kickback over because Demiik's going to download this and somebody here is going to upload it somewhere.
Oh yeah, they will.
So if there's a certain topic or something that you guys resonate a lot with, hammer us on that. And if you want an expanded thing, we might be able to schedule something. Right now, we're looking at this once a month.
Absolutely.
So if there's something that's watching manga, if there's something that you guys are really deep on and you're I feel very strongly about this and a lot of you do it, then we might be able to do an EX episode or a short take on it, as opposed to the main state of Sinnoh. I think we're trying to do is a little more variety. We're trying to cover multiple issues, which is a lot.
Generalize.
So, all right, what does everybody got going on? Bork, are you playing Genshin?
Yeah,
Me?
definitely. I'm downloading it right
now. Are you
now.
playing Genshin? I know you're not playing Genshin because I'm playing Genshin.
Are you down? Oh, the Chinese version?
Yeah, I've been playing the Chinese beta for a while.
Oh man,
I
was thinking about it.
I'm playing Genshin.
I'll wait for it. I'm going to reroll for at least, I want to say, 10 hours. And if they ban my...
I just want to go in and not reroll. Just take what I get and then just fucking run with it.
I'm in the same boat. I'm just going to take the first thing they throw at me and go, I feel happy, and then...
Yeah.
No, I can't do that.
I don't know how much...
I know you can't.
I don't know how much life it's got for me, Genshin. I want to play it lots. It looks great and, chill. But with Sinoalice being my main game and, my main kind of platform, I don't think that Genshin's got a lot of... It's got a bit of a ceiling for me, I think.
I think you'd be surprised. I think Genshin would actually go pretty well with your type of content.
If I weren't playing, outside of YouTube content, 3 or 4 PC games right now, Among Us is taking up way too much of my damn time.
It's all about Tabletop Simulator, baby.
Tabletop Simulator also pretty good. We've been playing Gloomhaven for, a couple of months. And then I've actually got a physical Gloomhaven game going on at the house.
Yeah. Nice. I've never, I would do they have things like Zombicide? Because that would be sick.
Yeah, Zombicide's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get anything on tabletop.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, Zombicide's great.
So, Tachi, what you doing?
I'm literally just playing Sinnoh and Brave 9.
And sleeping.
I'm sleeping my 2 to 4 hours a day.
What he meant to say is he's in your YouTube comments just seething.
I do spend an awful lot of time replying to comments, which maybe I should not, but it's just a habit. and hopefully it will die off eventually.
He's passionate. That's what we love.
That's it. That's it. I think that's what most people's problem with Sinnoh is, that they just love it too much.
Love it too much. Me and Fort have got War of the Visions and Sinoalice going on, and then I'm going to start streaming Genshin until that boat hits me in the ass.
Absolutely.
So, can I make a request for Tachi? Can he put up a poll on his channel, and can he like rename his channel for 24 hours? If the poll...
No, hold on. He has to receive donations.
Yes.
This has to be a money thing.
Monetary support.
We already stated that we can be purchased.
We already stated we can be purchased. I will agree. I will not deny that if someone pays me to change my channel name to Tachibana, I wouldn't do it. But I think the problem I'll run into is that I believe YouTube locks down name changes for 6 months.
Oh,
yeah, it's
so it has to be 6 months worth of donations.
It would have to be worth having a name that I'm not very fond of.
There's a number.
There's
guys
a number.
Figure out the
number. Say what it is, but there is a number, and it's probably a lot less than most people would agree to.
You're right.
My brand's up for sale as well. I said if someone pays for me to have an avatar, I'd be a fucking VTuber. Fuck it, as long as the avatar is of me. Yeah, that's for sale.
You don't want to be a female avatar? That makes it so much more fun.
What? No, no, because that's the funny part. Because it's literally just fucking me.
Can it be a female avatar with like that daring mustache?
Oh, can it be like a female me, stubble included?
Stubble? I mean, I don't know, man.
I'm not feeling
it. Maybe without the stubble, maybe.
So basically, just a female VTuber.
Exactly. That's what we should all go with. That sounds good.
And then I guess wrapping up, because we haven't got back to Demiik, our MC of choice. What are you working on outside of Sino?
Literally, it's Sino and just waiting for Genshin
you son
now.
Of a bitch, you let me down.
No, it's Genshin. We were talking about other games in the guild, but we just couldn't decide on something, and because there's a bunch of us playing Genshin, we're just like, guess we'll just wait for Genshin then.
I think you should all pick up Rainbow Six Siege. And
I've got Siege, and I suck.
And I haven't. I can't. CS:GO is clearly a much better game.
You mean the games. AK that doesn't work? Get out of here!
Right, my problem. I have a direct problem with CS:GO. Okay, I played CS:GO. My sister plays.
If we're talking 1.6 or Source, I'm down. I am not as big a fan of Go.
No, all right. This is my experience with CS:GO. Yeah, I was playing with my sister who plays it. She's pretty good at it. Okay. And I know all about, you got to tap the left click, not hold it in and such like that, okay? So I'm there, my aim is okay? So I'm aiming for this guy's head. I'm like, tap, tap, tap. I'm like, it's just not going down, just not getting shot at all. And my sister says this to me. She says, aim for his feet, yeah? I was like, that's dumb, okay. Aimed for the feet and got a headshot. Fuck this game, I turned it off, uninstalled.
All right. Now I know he's mad at CS:GO.
Yeah, I am. I'm not fucking. I don't care.
So I think that's it. Tachi, do you want to defend CS:GO? In the state of Sino Discord?
I cannot defend the fact that their servers are trash. I cannot defend that.
Oh, it's
but
so
the game
bad.
itself.
When they introduced the taser, I was all about it.
Oh, I think. Oh shit, we have cheaters too. Never mind. I'm not bringing that up.
Everyone's got cheaters.
Never mind. I'm not going to talk about that.
I'm proud of you.
Oh, I tell you what, I am playing Enter the Gungeon as well.
Gungeon's real good.
Yeah, I love roguelikes. All
I
right,
guess that's it for us. Curtains down, lights out. Anybody else? Last minute, Bork, you've been awful quiet, buddy.
I'm generally a quiet guy.
Fort, you got anything?
I just hope whoever has money donates to Tachi so we can see what happens. That's my whole goal for this week.
Please no.
Please no.
Please, Tachi, why?
Also, somebody just said Sino doesn't have cheaters. Demiik showed it on stream the other day. Did anybody see that 6-person Vanguard?
Oh, 6-person Vanguard, yes. That was.
It was a 6-person Vanguard.
I do think that there might be an actual cheater running around, but I don't know what it is. I have
just
heard
the
a lot
one guy. figured
Just
it out.
one guy showing up in random colo matches.
Not even part of the guild, just fucking turning up.
Yeah, he just shows up to give somebody 6.
Walks in. Oh, brilliant. All right, everybody. Kicking you out. Thank you. Have a good night. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Nice night.
Night, everybody.
Bye.
Stay toxic.